Okay, hello everyone. Welcome sa panibago na naman nating lecture dito sa Social Psychology. For today, we are going to talk about group influence, which is one of the chapters na diniscuss ni David Myers in his textbook on social psychology. So if you want to learn more, read more details on this topic, read the entire chapter by David Myers on group influence. Now, before we talk about group influence, may konting self-reflection muna tayo. I would like you to think of behaviors, mga bagay na hindi mo gagawin pag may ibang tao. Behaviors you're never going to do when there are other people. And then for point number 2, think of behaviors, mga bagay na hindi mo gagawin na mag-isa. You will never do all by yourself. Now, what's the point of the self-reflection? The point is, iba yung dynamics ng social behavior or ng behaviors natin, kapag may ibang tao versus pag mag-isa lang tayo. Kung baga, in using cellphone analogy, we have a social mode and we also have private mode. Alright? So our behaviors have different dynamics depending whether we are alone or when we are with other people. And since this subject is about social psychology, ang pag-uusapan natin, ang focus natin in this lecture is ano yung dynamics? Ano yung mga behaviors na ginagawa natin more likely when we are in a group context? Got that? So what are the different social behaviors that we do? We are more likely to show when we are in the presence of other people. Okay, so I'm going to discuss in connection to that slide, 4 patterns that people usually show kapag nasa konteksto tayo ng grupo. Kapag may mga tao sa paligid natin. Okay, so ano yung 4 na yan? We have social facilitation effect, social loafing, we have groupthink, and we have the individuation. Unahin natin yung social facilitation effect. Okay, number 1. Anong ibig sabihin ng social facilitation effect? This is an observation, a social behavior, or a social pattern where people perform better in the presence of a group. Sa Tagalog, mas gumagaling yung performance natin, mas marami tayong effort na ine-exert when we sense that we are being watched by other people, especially in a group. Na-discover ito ni Norman Triplett, who was a very popular social psychologist during his time, when he went biking. Napansin niya yan, na tuwing nagbabike siya, tapos may kasama siyang ibang mga tao, he is biking in the context of a group, mas malakas yung pagbabike niya, mas malayo yung nararating niya compared to when he was biking alone. So gumawa siya ng research and he was able to confirm that indeed, totoo nga na lahat ng tao nakaka-experience ng social facilitation effect. Again, we exert more effort, we perform better when we are being watched by other people, when we sense that there are other people around us while we are doing something. Okay, one good example of this would be yung mga nagbabasketball dyan. Let's say you are shooting. Nagsi-shooting drill ka mag-isa. You are in a public court and then shooting ka dyan. And then merong isang player, may isang tao na dumating sa court, may dala ring bola, nag-shooting din siya. Sinabayan ka because it's a public park. Now, according to social facilitation effect, in that situation, ang mangyayari sa'yo is, dahil alam mo na may kasama kang nagsushooting, mas gagalingan mo yung pagsushooting mo. Kasi mas magiging conscious ka doon sa presence ng isa pang tao. So, mas gagalingan mo, mas gagandahan mo yung form mo, mas gagandahan mo yung bato mo para mas lalong ma-shoot yung bola. But you were not like that. Hindi ganyan yung level ng effort mo noong nagsushooting ka pa lang mag-isa. You were exerting less effort when you were shooting alone. But this time, you were exerting more effort when there was someone shooting with you. Yan yung tinatawag nating social facilitation effect. At marami pang mga naging studies dyan, other researches that show social facilitation effect. For example, studies show in sports psychology, exercise psychology, very popular itong finding that athletes lift heavier weights. They run farther when they jog or when they sprint when they do the exercises with other athletes. Kaya sa sports psychology, laging mas maganda na yung atleta, meron siyang kasamang mag-workout. Na-challenge sila sa isa't isa, They lift heavier, they lift longer, mas sineseryoso nila yung practice when they are doing it with a group of other athletes. The same thing with eating habits. Ito naman pang health psychology. Studies show that people are more likely to eat more food when they eat with other people. Kaya mahirap mag-diet. Masisira talaga yung diet at yung disiplina mo kapag kasama mo yung barkada. You know, and it makes a lot of sense. Pag kasama mo kasi yung barkada mo, magkakayayaan kumain, yayayain kang kumain ng mga food na hindi pwede sa'yo kasi nga ayaw mo yun sa diet mo, but how can you resist? 5 silang pumipilit sa'yo. Ayaw mo namang maging killjoy. Ayaw mong maging black sheep of the barkada. So, what happens? You just end up eating what they are eating. Kaya ang lesson dito for those of you who are on a diet, gusto mong masunod yung diet plan mo, huwag kang kakain kasama yung barkada mo. You eat alone para masusustain mo yung level of discipline that you need to make your diet successful. Okay? So, yan yung social facilitation effect. Now, what explains social facilitation effect? Another social psychologist by the name of Robert Zayenz, ganun daw ang pag-pronounce dyan, hindi Zajonc, no? Zayenz, answered that question. According to him, the reason why mayroong social facilitation effect kasi nagkakaroon tayo ng evaluation apprehension when we are in the presence of a group. Anong ibig sabihin ng evaluation apprehension? A simple definition would be, we become highly conscious that other people are evaluating us. At syempre, as social creatures, kapag alam natin that people are watching us, ini-evaluate nila tayo, tinitignan nila kung magaling tayo, anong gusto natin? Gusto natin yung performance natin, yung behavior natin is normal, average, or even above average. We don't like to appear stupid. We don't like to appear helpless. By nature, gusto natin yung behaviors natin average hanggang above average. So, ano mangyayari? That evaluation apprehension will increase our efforts in doing certain social behaviors. To put that in a diagram, it looks something like this. Alam mo na maraming mga mata nakatingin sa'yo while you are doing something. Kasi nga, you are in the presence of a group. O, para mag-appear normal ka, para mag-appear above average ka, para bumilib sila sa'yo, para purihin ka nila, gagalingan mo. Lalong-lalo na kapag maraming nakatingin. And this is especially pronounced in a culture like ours in the Philippines kasi nga mataas yung collectivism natin. I-research na lang kung ano ibig sabihin ng collectivism. Ang opposite niyan is individualism. This is very connected to Filipino psychology, no? In a nutshell, being a collectivist culture means people in that culture are so aware, are so concerned about what other people will say about them. Masyado tayong concerned sa mga sinasabi ng iba. Ganyan tayo mga Pilipino kasi nga highly collectivistic culture tayo. O kaya in connection to this concept, malakas ang evaluation apprehension ng mga Pilipino. 'Di ba? Kaya nga sa language natin, meron tayong terminology na dapat galingan natin. Dapat gandahan natin yung performance natin kapag maraming nanonood kasi nakakahiya naman kung magkakalat tayo sa harap nila. You got that? So evaluation apprehension among Filipinos is very strong. Kaya most likely, madaling makakita ng social facilitation effect in our culture compared to cultures who are highly individualistic. O kapag highly individualistic naman, ito yung mga kultura na wala masyadong pakialam sa sinasabi ng iba. Anong pakialam nyo kung hindi ako magaling? Anong pakialam nyo kung hindi ako average? No? Something like that. So, in those situations, in those cultures, less likely yung social facilitation effect kasi mababa naman yung evaluation apprehension in those cases. Pero again, ang mga Pilipino, matataas ang evaluation apprehension. Most likely, madaling makakita ng social facilitation effect. Alright? So that's how Robert Zayenz explained bakit nagkakaroon ng social facilitation effect. Kasi nga nagkakaroon ng evaluation apprehension that increases our motivation to perform in a normal level to above average level. In the field of industrial organizational psychology or IO psychology for short, no, ang equivalent niyan ng social facilitation effect is the Hawthorne effect. This is a very popular concept in IO Psych wherein employees tend to perform better. Mas gumagaling sila, mas nagtitino sila sa mga trabaho nila pag alam nila na si boss nanonood. And we've heard of that story many times. We've seen that pattern many times. 'Di ba? Kapag wala yung boss, tatamad-tamad, puro text sa trabaho, natutulog, umiidlip, chismisan with the workmates. Pero pag nandyan ang bossing, alam nila si bossing umiikot-ikot, all attention on work. Nag-iiba yung performance kapag nandyan yung boss versus wala yung boss. Ang tawag dyan, Hawthorne effect. So this reflects the idea of social facilitation effect. Kapag nandyan si boss, mataas ang evaluation apprehension, so people perform better. Okay? Some applications of social facilitation effect in our society, for example, ginagamit to para maiwasan yung shoplifting. Especially para sa mga business owners. Kapag meron silang physical shop, it's very important to let people know that they are being watched inside the shop para maging aware yung mga tao na hindi dapat sila mag-shoplift. Para maging aware yung tao o maging motivated yung mga tao na magtino inside the store. Diba? When you let them know that you are being watched, meron kami mga CCTVs. Galingan nyo. Diba? Galingan nyo sa pagiging matinong citizen by not shoplifting. That's the whole point. Kaya yung mga shops, yung mga stores, no, madalas meron silang ganyang mga messages that in this place, we can see your behavior, so better be a good citizen. Huwag kayong magnakaw. Because you are being watched. Pinapataas natin yung evaluation apprehension ng mga tao para magtitino sila, susunod sila sa batas. Alright? Another application, although sinabi ko na kanina, no, in the field of industrial organizational psychology, paano hindi tama rin yung mga empleyado, pataasin yung evaluation apprehension. And one way to do that in IO psychology application would be ibahin yung forma ng workplace. It used to be, many years ago, ganito ang forma ng mga offices, 'di ba? Per cubicle. Ang problema kapag naka-cubicle yung mga employees, mababa ang evaluation apprehension because nobody can see what another person is doing. So kahit anong gawin mo dyan, kung tatamad-tamad ka, magpe-Facebook ka lang maghapon, matutulog ka dyan, may ka-text ka na kaibigan mo, walang makakita sa'yo. Hindi ka mababa ang evaluation apprehension. Alam mong you cannot be evaluated because you are not seen. So modern day offices, para to deal with that problem, tinanggal na yung mga cubicles. Everyone can see anyone. Wala nang mga cubicles para magkakakitaan kayo kung sino ang tatamad-tamad. So mataas ang evaluation apprehension, all employees will be working. Siyempre, kapag nagkakakitaan kayo ng mga efforts, magpapasikatan kayo. Magko-compete kayo in a healthy way kung sino pinakamasipag in the workplace. Nagigets ninyo? So that's one way para pataasin yung motivation ng employees to work better. You apply this principle in clinical psychology, that's the reason why most therapies are done in group context. And we have many evidences to show na yung effectivity ng therapy mas maganda kapag ginagawa in groups compared to when you do it alone. Mas mababa ang success rate kapag one-on-one yung therapy. Mas nakaka-recover ng mabilis from alcoholism yung mga tao. Nakaka-recover ng mas mabilis from being a sex addict yung mga tao. When you do these therapies in group context. And the question is why? Anong magic meron kapag yung mga tao in a group setting trying to recover from certain illnesses? Well, nagkakaroon kasi ng positive emotions yung grupo. Nag-generate ng positive emotions yung grupo at yung positive emotions na yon are helping them to recover from the things that they want to recover from, such as, yun na nga, alcoholism or being a sex addict. So, nag-generate ng love, nag-generate ng support, nag-generate ng good works. Yung presensya ng isa't isa in the context of the group, and those positive emotions become very powerful in helping these people improve their psychological health. Kaya one lesson dito, no, if you are undergoing a therapy, meron kang problema pinagdaraanan, it makes psychological sense na gawin mo dapat yan in the context of a group. Kailangan meron kang social support group para mas ma-motivate ka, mas maging successful ka in improving your psychological difficulty. Okay? So that's for social facilitation effect. Now, let's move on to number 2, social loafing. So this is another pattern being observed among people kapag nasa group context tayo. Ang ibig sabihin naman ng social loafing is when people exert this time less effort when they know there are other people around. Kabaliktaran ito ng social facilitation effect. Sa social facilitation effect, more effort. Ito naman, less effort. Ito na yung mga tao na kapag alam nila na may magaling sa grupo, hindi nag-exert ng effort. Anong tawag dyan? In popular language, mga free riders, mga freeloaders. Alam na alam yan ng marami sa inyo. I know some of you have encountered these kinds of people, right? They know that you're gonna do the project anyway. They know marami naman kayong magagaling sa grupo anyway. Anong gagawin nila? Hindi na sila mag-exert ng effort. Hindi sila magpaparamdam sa mga group meetings. 'Di ba? Sino nakaka-relate? Magpaparamdam na lang pag malapit na yung deadline. Mag-o-offer ng mga services na wala nang kakwenta-kwenta. Sila na lang daw ang magpapa-photocopy. Sila na lang daw yung magpiprint, so on and so forth. Ang tawag dyan, social loafing. And in the laboratory, this pattern is very well observed. As in, marami mga studies na nagpapakita that human beings have this kind of tendency to free ride in the context of a group. For example, in one study by Alan Ingham, nagkaroon siya ng tug of war study. Okay, so in the laboratory, yung mga tao nagta-tug of war. But these people who are doing tug of war were divided into two conditions. The first condition was they know that they are pulling with a group of people. So tug of war, naghihilahan sila, alam nila na may kasama silang naghihila. In the other condition, ito naman yung mga tao na blindfolded silang nagpupul ng rope. So they have no idea whether they are pulling alone or they are pulling with another person. And what was the result? Kapag alam nila na may kasama silang naghihila doon sa tug of war, according to their measurements of the effort that these people exert, 18% less effort ang na-exert when they know that they are pulling with a group. So mas malakas yung paghila ng mga participants when they know or when they are not sure whether they're doing it with the group or not. So ang assumption doon is marami sa kanila nag-a-assume that they are pulling alone. Kasi wala naman sila nakikitang ibang tao na humihila kasi nga naka-blindfold sila. But for those people who knew that they are doing this with the group, they exert less effort. The same thing with another study. Ito kay Hardy and Latan, the noise study. Ang ginawa dito is participants in the laboratory were asked to create noise as loud as they can. Okay? And again, this was done in two conditions. The first condition was, they made noise with other people. Alam nila na hindi lang sila yung gagawa ng noise. Meron silang kasama na gagawa ng noise. Sabay-sabay silang gumagawa ng noise. In the other condition, they were asked to make the noise alone. Alam nilang mag-isa sila as strong as they can. Gagawa sila ng malakas na noise when they are alone. And according to the result, people are more likely to create less noise, mas mag-exert sila ng less effort, mas mahina yung noise na gagawin nila when they know that they are doing it with other people. So ano ang common denominator doon sa tug of war study and the noise making study? People exert less effort when they know they are doing the task in the context of a group. I-translate mo yan in our everyday experience. Let's enter the classroom. Diba? Very obvious naman yung social loafing in the classroom, especially when we talk about recitations. There's a teacher and then the teacher asks a question. Now, let's assign two conditions. Saan mas malakas ang social loafing? Saan mas walang sasagot na students? Letter A, kapag yung estudyante sa classroom is 50 plus versus letter B, kapag yung estudyante sa classroom is 4 lang. In which condition do you think students are less likely to recite, less likely to raise their hands and answer a question? Ang sagot, in the classroom where there are many students. Most likely, walang magtataas ng kamay dyan. Diba? Kasi, alam nila na marami namang pwedeng sumagot ng tanong. Got that? That's social loafing in the classroom. Now, why does this happen? Ano ang psychological explanation? Bakit nagkakaroon ng social loafing? Meron tayong tinatawag na diffusion of responsibility. Let me illustrate how diffusion of responsibility works. Let's say there is an emergency situation. May nangyari in the environment where clearly this person needs to respond. There is someone who is in need. So kapag nakita nyo yung emergency situation, siguro nadulas yung tao, nabagok yung ulo, kailangan ng medical help, yung sense of responsibility, yan yung SOR, yung sense of responsibility, nasa kanya lang. So what happens? This person is more likely to respond. Tutulungan niya yan kasi siya lang yung tao eh. Siya lang yung may kakayanan na tumulong in that situation. Now, you change the situation. Let's say, hindi lang siya yung tao na nakakita ng emergency situation. This person knows that there are many other people in the environment who saw the emergency situation. Now, what happens? This person is less likely to respond. Bakit? Anong gagawin niya? I-diffuse niya yung responsibility to other people. Yan yung ibig sabihin ng diffusion of responsibility. Sa simpleng Tagalog, ipapasa niya yung responsibilidad sa iba. Yung Tagalog line dyan, sasabihin niya, bakit ako magre-respond? Marami naman kami dito. Ang hindi niya alam, itong taong to, yun din yung inisip. Bakit ako magre-respond? Marami naman kami dito. Ito, yun din yung inisip niya. Bakit ako magre-respond? Marami namang tao dito. Etong taong to, ganun din yung inisip niya. Bakit ako magre-respond? Marami naman kami dito. Lahat sila ganun ang inisip. Lahat sila nag-diffusion of responsibility. Ano ang ending? Walang nag-respond. Which is so weird. Dapat nga, kung marami nakakita, marami magre-respond. But in social loafing, as explained by diffusion of responsibility, baliktad yun nangyayari. Mas marami nakakita, mas konti, mas mababa yung chance na merong magre-respond. Sounds familiar? This is a very popular concept in social psychology. Diyan na ngayon nanggaling yung tinatawag nating bystander effect, wherein a person is less likely to be helped the more people see that person. Which is again, weird, ironic. Dapat nga, mas maraming tao, mas may magre-respond. Sa bystander effect, yun yung nakikita natin. Mas maraming tao nakakita, mas walang nagre-respond. Bakit? Lahat sila gumawa ng diffusion of responsibility. So that's the connection. Kaya nagkakaroon ng bystander effect kasi nagkakaroon ng diffusion of responsibility. Diffusion of responsibility led to bystander effect. Kaya paano natin ipe-prevent yung social loafing? Of course, we don't like this to happen, especially in the context of group projects. Isa rin yan sa mga hate ng mga teachers. Ayaw namin na merong mga student in a group na hindi nagpa-participate. They will get the same high grade as what others got, and that's so unfair. Tapos konti lang yung effort na in-exert nila. Okay, some of the ways on how to prevent social loafing. Number 1, kailangan talaga ng matinding monitoring dyan. We will make sure that everyone is doing equal amounts of effort for the project. At marami mga techniques on how to do that. Number 1 would be peer evaluation. Diba? Kaya yung ibang projects, yung ibang teachers, pag nagbibigay sila ng group projects, they are asking the group members to evaluate each other, depending on the efforts that they exert, para mabantayan natin kung merong nag-free ride in the group. Number 2, another way to prevent social loafing is to keep the group small. Because studies show, ang magic number pala ng group members that's more likely to lead to social loafing is 5 and above. Kapag lumagpas ka na ng 5 or eksaktong 5, yung number of group members, mataas yung chance na magkakaroon ng social loafing. So keep it small. 4 members and below, yan, mababa yung chance na merong social loafing. Alright? So yan yung pinagkaiba ng social loafing sa social facilitation effect. Ano ang common? These two happens in the context of a group. Pero anong pinagkaiba? Yung epekto ng grupo sa social behaviors. In social facilitation effect, social behaviors increase in quality kasi may evaluation apprehension, while in social loafing, social behaviors decrease kasi nagkakaroon ng diffusion of responsibility. Number 3 is groupthink. This is another pattern of behavior that we observe from people in the context of a group. Anong ibig sabihin ng groupthink? Ang groupthink is, it's not a good thing. Negative to. Negative psychological pattern where a person always agree, or a member of a group always agrees to the opinions of all the other members in the group. Desisyon ng grupo, desisyon ko rin. Yung hindi na ako nag-iisip. Dahil yan yung decision nyo. Alright? Hindi ko naiisipin kung tama o mali yan, yan na rin yung decision ko. Kaya itong groupthink na to, very present ito in the context of decision making. In fact, tinuturo ko rin to in cognitive psychology under the topic of decision making. This is one of the dangers. Kaya nga sabi ko, hindi to maganda, no? When you are making decisions, mahalaga na masigurado mo walang groupthink na nangyayari. That members in the group are not being like this. They just go with the flow. They just go with what majority is saying. That's dangerous. Kasi ano ang danger niyan? One of the dangers of groupthink is we miss the decision weaknesses because everyone is thinking alike. Lahat na lang nagsisay ng yes tungkol sa isang decision, hindi na sila nag-iisip. May tendency na hindi natin nakikita yung weakness ng decision. And dangerous yan. Kapag yung decision na yan, it includes or it involves, human life. Diba? One good example in connection to this slide in history would be yung nangyari kay President Kennedy when his administration decided to attack Cuba. During that time, kasi ang Amerika galit na galit sa Cuba, di ba? You remember the characters like Fidel Castro. Gusto nilang sugurin si Fidel Castro. Which, by the way, they did. Pero bago nila ginawa yan, pinagmitingan nila muna. At nagbotohan sila. So, imagine, in the White House, there was a big meeting wherein the main agenda is to decide whether to attack Fidel Castro or not in Cuba. And according to historians, in that meeting, everyone said yes. Walang kumontra. Lahat sila unanimous. We will win when we attack that person in his own country. Fast forward, they did attack Cuba, pero ano nangyari? To make the long story short, natalo sila. Ang daming American soldiers ang namatay in Cuba. It's one of the most humiliating battles that US entered. Let me read to you an excerpt coming from a historian in connection to that event. In 1961, President John Kennedy and his advisors tried to overthrow Fidel Castro by invading Cuba with 1,400 CIA-trained Cuban exiles. Nearly all the invaders were soon killed or captured. The US was humiliated, and Cuba allied itself more closely with the former USSR, which, by the way, is America's rival during that time. After learning the outcome, Kennedy wondered aloud, how could I have been so stupid? Anong sagot? Bakit nagkaroon ng ganyang event? Kasi when they were trying to decide whether to attack Cuba or not, nagkaroon ng groupthink. Remember, ano ang decision? Unanimous. All of them believe they're gonna win. Everyone said yes. So walang nakakita ng weakness, walang nakakita ng loophole doon sa decision to attack Cuba. In fact, one of the people in that meeting by the name of Arthur Schlesinger said something like this. Nandun siya sa meeting later on, nung natalo na yung United States, ito yung sinabi niya, I disappointed myself for having what? Kept so silent. During those crucial discussions in the cabinet room, through my feelings of guilt were tempered by the knowledge that a course of objection would have accomplished little, served to gain me a name as a nuisance. So anong ginawa ni Arthur? Nanahimik siya. Kahit alam niya, nakikita niya yung loopholes ng decision. In an interview, na-reveal niya yun Deep inside, alam niya it's not a good decision. But he shut himself up just to go forward the decision of the group kasi ayaw niyang matawag na nuisance. In connection to that, I want you to notice na ang groupthink, meron din siyang emotional component. Meron din siyang involved na fear of going against the majority. So how do you overcome the fear of going against the majority? You don't go against the majority. Kahit alam mo na yung opinion ng majority, mali. ang daming loopholes. Yan ang groupthink. O, di ba? Sana nakita nyo how dangerous groupthink can be. Kapag pinairal ang groupthink, these things can happen. Daming mamamatay. Kaya ang lesson dito, groups can make you not think. That's one of the dangers of being in a group context. Hindi na tayo nag-iisip. We just go along with what the other people or with what the members are thinking. So how do we prevent groupthink? Kung hindi pala maganda yan, no? One technique na ina-apply in social psychology is called the devil's advocate method. Ibig sabihin ng devil's advocate method, i-apply nyo yan sa isang meeting. Let's say there's a board meeting, tapos gumagawa sila ng very important decision. Mag-a-assign yung grupo ng isang devil. And the job of the devil is to counter all the decisions that will be agreed upon by the group. Maghahanap siya ng butas, maghahanap siya ng weakness doon sa decision. To make sure na hindi nagkakaroon ng groupthink. Dapat laging may kokontra. So, kailan hihinto yung process? Kapag yung devil, wala na siyang makitang loophole. Wala na siyang makitang weakness doon sa decision, then most likely, the decision is good. It's ready for execution. Yon. So magandang magandang method na ginagawa yan, especially when you are in the group context making a very important decision. Kaya naalala ko yung isang quotable quote, no? Ang sabi ng isang wise man, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Ano ang kahalagahan ng marami kang advisors na pe-prevent yung groupthink? Iba-iba ng perspective. So, hindi nagkakaroon ng groupthink, you end up making good decisions. And last one, number 4, let's talk about the individuation. This is another social pattern that we observe from people in the group context wherein ang nangyayari sa mga tao, the presence of the group leads to antisocial behaviors. Sa simpleng Tagalog, nagiging salbahe ang maraming tao when they are in the context of a group. In fact, if you read the literature on crowd psychology, by the way, meron talagang ganyang field, crowd psychology, one of the major findings is ang mga tao malakas ang loob na gumawa ng kalokohan when they are in the context of a very large group. That's why one of the most dangerous places that you could be would be in a group context, lalong-lalo na kapag crowded yung context. Kasi kapag nandito ka, for sure, marami mga tao dyan malakas ang loob na gumawa ng kalokohan. Some examples that show the individuation, no, where the presence of a group leads to a number of negative social behaviors. Sa sports, very common yan. Diba? Kaya sa sports, nagkakaroon ng sapakan, nagkakaroon ng away na matindi kasi nakaka-contribute dyan yung presence ng grupo. Yung presence ng kakampi niya, yung presence ng mga ng kalaban niya, it adds to the motivation of athletes to fight against each other in a physical way. Magsusuntukan, magsisipaan, maghahagisan ng mga silya, o lalong-lalo na kapag nangyari na to, sasama na yung mga fans. Alam naman natin, no, yung mga fans sa stand, sa bleachers, marami yan. Kaya in any sporting events, laging mataas ang tendency that people will undergo de-individuation. Kaya dapat nakokontrol yan. Any altercations na maliit, no, hindi dapat yan pinapatagal ng mga referees, dapat inaayos ka agad yan. Another example would be social demonstrations, yung mga nagdarally sa kalsada. Very common ang de-individuation dyan. Malalakas ang loob ng mga tao na gumawa ng mga dangerous behaviors dyan. Mamamalo, magbabato ng pillbox, magbabato ng mga bote, yan. Lalong-lalo na in the camp of the police people naman, ganun din. Dahil alam nilang marami sila, malakas ang loob nila na manghampas ng mga reliyista. Malakas ang loob nila na mag-water cannon. Malakas ang loob nila na magpaputok ng baril in some situations. Nangyayari yan. At may tinatamaan na mga demonstrators. See? All those examples reflect de-individuation. And de-individuation also happens in the digital world. Hindi lang yan puro pang physical. Sa digital world meron din. Kaya meron tayong mga online trolls. Ang lalakas ng loob na magsabi ng mga masasamang bagay. Nagmumura, nagpapakalat ng chismis. Bakit matapang? Ano sagot? they are de-individuating. Lalong-lalo na sa group chats. Take note of this. I'm sure kayo, mga students, alam nyo to. Meron kayo mga group chats about certain subjects where you talk about your teachers in that subject. Aamin ba kayo dyan? Tama ba, may mga group chats kayo, no? Na pinag-uusapan niyo yung mga teachers nyo? Tingnan nyo yung mga sinasabi niyo about your teachers. Because you know that your teachers cannot see the conversations that you're having. Diba? Ang tatapang ng mga sinasabi ng mga students. But when they know na nandyan yung teacher, ang babait ng mga sinasabi, less likely to de-individuate. Got that? So what fuels the individuation? Anong explanation dyan? Kasi, kaya gumagawa ng mga negative social behaviors, kaya malakas ang loob kung ano-anong sabihin, kasi feeling ng mga tao, meron silang anonymity. Anonymity is a feeling, it's the confidence that you will not be identified in any way. Nobody will see me. Nobody will recognize me. Therefore, I am free to do the things that I want to do. Especially bad things. Okay lang ako magmura, okay lang ako magbato ng upuan, okay lang ako magbato ng mineral water, okay lang ako manuntok. Kasi sa dami ng tao dito, imposible that I will be identified by the authority. Right? That's the origin of evil behaviors. The idea, the confidence that nobody can recognize you. So kung gagawin mong conceptual framework yan, it looks something like this. People feel anonymous, it will increase their confidence to do antisocial behaviors, and that confidence will be translated to bad behaviors. Ayun na. Nanuntok na. Nagpaputok na ng baril. Nagbato na ng upuan. Nanipa na. Because that person in the first place felt anonymous because he or she is in the presence of many other individuals. Imposibleng makikita sila ng mga authorities. Kaya saan common nangyayari yan? Especially sa concerts. Kaya yung mga may plano dyan na pumunta sa mga concerts na pagkarami-raming tao, ingat kayo. Mataas ang chance that somebody in the concert will de-individuate. Another example would be in cinemas. Alam ng mga security guards yan. Saan madalas nangyayari yung mga kalokohan, yung mga illegal things? It's more likely to be done in the parts of the movie house where it's dark, where nobody can identify what this person is doing. Alam nyo na yan. Pag may nakita kayong couple na pumupwesto somewhere dito sa mga dark areas, lalong-lalo na kapag pumupwesto doon sa talagang walang mga nakaupo. Diba? Alam nyo na baka most likely merong gagawin na hindi maganda yan. Nagigets nyo? Another expression of the individuation would be wearing mask. The psychology of wearing mask. Ano ang psychology sa wearing mask? Ano nangyayari sa tao psychologically when they wear mask? Nagtataas yung confidence nila to do something illegal. Kasi nga nakamaskara sila. Going back to that framework, when they wear mask, they know they are not identified. They will not be recognized. So tataas yung confidence nila to do the bad behaviors. Kaya karamihan ng mga kriminal nakamask. Yung maskara na yan, dagdag sa confidence nila to do what they want to do. Because they know they will not be recognized. Diba? Kaya yung mga bank robberies, yung mga nangingidnap, yung mga gumagawa ng mga krimen, karamihan dyan, nakamaskara. Yan yung psychological effect ng mask sa tao. Alright? So, paano natin ngayon lalabanan yung krimen? Paano natin ipiprevent yung de-individuation? If you can follow my line of thinking, then the only solution here is to decrease anonymity. Saan nanggagaling ang de-individuation? Anonymity. So, anong gagawin natin? Pababain mo yung anonymity. Let people know that they are not anonymous. That you have a mechanism that you're using where you can recognize these people in case may ginawa silang kalokohan. And there are many ways how to do this, no? Ano yung iba't ibang paraan para ma-recognize natin yung mga identities ng mga tao? Of course, ang pinaka-obvious dyan is lights. People feel very confident to do bad things in dark places. 'Di ba? Kaya nga may reason kung bakit dangerous ang gabi. Bakit dangerous na maggala-gala pa kayo sa gabi? Bakit? Kasi marami mga tao at night nagde-individuate. They become confident in doing bad things because they're thinking nobody can see them kasi nga madilim. So, reverse the principle, pailawan mo yung mga dark places. 'Di ba? In criminology, that's one of the reasons why mas mataas ang crime rate sa gabi kumpara sa umaga. Because again, many people are de-individuating at night where lights are low. Yon. Kaya mas mataas talaga ang crime rate sa gabi kumpara sa umaga. O kaya kung mayor ka ng isang syudad, gusto mong pababain yung crime rate ng city mo, one application, make sure lahat ng parte ng city mo maliwanag para less likely ang de-individuation. Another way to lower down anonymity would be CCTVs. Kaya ito magandang invention yan eh. Malaki ang naitulong ng CCTVs para pababain yung crime rate. Because when criminals know that they can be seen because there are eyes in the sky via the CCTVs, mas bumababa yung chance na magde-individuate sila because they know they are not anonymous. O kaya i-apply mo rin to sa mga yung sinabi ko kanina sa shoplifting, 'di ba? Kung meron kang store and you want to prevent people from shoplifting, how do you do it? Make them know that there are CCTV cameras all around them. Hindi kayo magiging anonymous. Kapag may ginawa kayong kalokohan, huling-huli ko kung sino kayo. Yan yung purpose nun. Kaya nagpo-post ng mga ganyang signage. At mahalaga na, yun nga, dapat may CCTV. If I'm not mistaken, in majority of the cities in Metro Manila, batas naman na yan eh, na kapag meron kang establishment, at least dapat meron kang working CCTV. It's for your own protection as the owner of the business, di ba? And last one, letter C, no? Ano yun? Dapat paliwanagin yung kapaligiran, maglagay ng maraming CCTV para bumaba yung anonymity. Letter C is requiring IDs or identification. Diba? Kaya in our society, marami tayong mga mechanisms where we apply this. Kaya required na ang kotse kapag tumatakbo sa kalsada, dapat may plate number. Major offense kapag ang kotse ginagamit ng walang plate number. Why? In connection to our lesson, kapag ang driver alam niya wala siyang plate number, hindi siya ma-recognize, hindi siya ma-identify, kapag may ginawa siyang kalokohan, most likely gagawa ng kalokohan yan. Mag-hit and run yan. Kapag nakasagi yan ng kotse, tatakbo yan. Kasi alam niya, hindi siya makikilala kasi nga wala siyang plate number. Kaya major offense yan ng LTO. Kapag hindi mo na-register yung kotse, wala kang plaka at ginamit mo yung kotse, naku, malaking penalty yan. In sports, yan yung psychology behind jersey numbers. Why is it? Meron ng unique number yung athlete, meron pang apelyido ng athlete. Para magtanda yung mga athletes na kapag kayo nagrambulan kayo dyan sa court, nagsuntukan kayo dyan, kitang-kita kayo ng mga camera natin, tandaan nyo, meron kayong mga pangalan sa jersey nyo, meron kayong mga unique number sa jersey nyo, so mag-ayos kayo. Huwag kayo mag-de-individuate. Hindi kayo anonymous in playing the sport. Alright? In the digital world, how do we do this? Yan. Kaya meron tayong mga batas na ganyan. Pinaparegister yung SIM cards. Kasi karamihan ng mga scammers, I'm sure you know what scammers mean. Marami sa inyo na biktima niyan. Nagpapadala ng mga random messages to fish certain information. Especially when you click certain links, di ba? Bakit ba malalakas ang loob ng mga yan na magpadala ng mga ganyang messages? Because they know they're anonymous. Kasi yung number nila, there's no way to identify who's the owner of that number. Kaya gumawa ng SIM card registration law, wherein lahat ng SIM cards na active, bago mo magamit yan, dapat magre-register ka muna sa National Telecommunications Center or NTC. Para sure ball, kung may kalokohan kang ginawa, nagpapadala ka ng mga random messages na illegal, huling-huli kung sino ka. Kasi mag-a-upload ka ng ID dyan in connection to a certain SIM card. Diba? A-upload mo yung ID mo, saan ka nakatira. So you know, habang gumagamit ka ng cellphone, you are not anonymous. Your number is not anonymous. Pwede ka kaagad ma-identify ng NBI kapag may ginawa kang kalokohan. Okay? So yung batas na yan, ginawa yan para pababain yung anonymity in the digital world. In the national level, kaya nire-require ng gobyerno na magkaroon ng national ID. One of the advantages kapag successfully na-implement yung national ID is bababa yung terrorism activity. That's one of the reasons why terrorists are so confident doing their terrorizing. Why? Because they know they will not be recognized. Diba? Kapag may national ID na, lahat ng tao sa Pilipinas may ID and it's registered under the Philippine government, and the Philippine government can identify anyone, mas mahirap na magkaroon ng terrorist activity in the Philippines. Kasi karamihan ng mga terorista, syempre, hindi sila registered. Pag hindi sila registered, it will raise a red flag. So, alam na ng mga Philippine authorities who to watch for. Kasi ito yung mga taong walang ID, walang identification. Bakit sila walang identification? Most likely may planong masama yan. Kaya ayaw nila kumuha ng ID. Yon. Kaya, suportahan natin yung government in connection to this. No? Na magkaroon tayo ng national ID, it's for our own protection. Para pababain yung anonymity ng mga tao na may masasamang plano sa Pilipinas. Alright? So, in summary, as we close the lesson, meron tayong 4 patterns of behaviors na pinag-usapan in connection to being in a group. Ang mga tao, kapag nasa konteksto ng grupo, meron tayong 4 na patterns na most likely makikita. Number 1, social facilitation effect. Number 2, social loafing. Number 3, people are more likely to groupthink. And number 4, may tendency that people will de-individuate. Alright? So those are the different social patterns that we are more likely to expect or that we should expect when people are placed in a group context. Yon. So that ends my lecture for this topic. Kung meron kayong mga tanong or comments or some other examples under those different concepts, ilagay nyo lang sa comment section. Babasahin natin yan if we have time. Sana marami kayong natutunan in this short lecture. Sir Howard here. God bless everyone. Bye-bye.